I thought my boyfriend was just shy or antisocial when he kept dodging every hangout with my friend group. I teased him, got frustrated, even argued with him about it, but nothing could have prepared me for what he finally confessed. My own friends, the women I trusted, were the reason he kept his distance, and what they did to him. It shattered me. I met Adam about a year and a half ago, and it didn't take long for me to feel like I'd found something real. He was calm, thoughtful, and always made me feel seen in a way no one else ever had. We started off slowly, texting back and forth, long phone calls into the night, and then eventually spending weekends together doing the most mundane things that somehow felt magical. He wasn't flashy or overly romantic, he was just kind, steady, safe, and after a long string of chaotic relationships that safety felt like gold. As things got more serious between us, I naturally wanted to bring him deeper into my world. That meant introducing him to my inner circle, my best friends, the women who had been with me through everything. I had known most of them since college, and we'd gone through breakups, bad jobs, and mental health breakdowns side by side. They were bold, loud, unapologetically themselves, the type who would show up at your place unannounced with wine and a playlist if they knew you were having a bad day. To me, they were family. The first time Adam met them was during a casual dinner at my apartment. I noticed he seemed a bit quiet, but I brushed it off as first, meeting nerves. Not everyone clicks right away, but after that night I noticed a pattern. Every time I invited him to a group outing, a birthday dinner, game night, a brunch plan, he had a reason not to come. He'd say he was exhausted, had to finish work, or just needed some alone time. I wanted to be understanding, but over time it started to wear on me. I began to feel like I was living two separate lives, one with him, one with them, and it was exhausting trying to keep the balance. When I brought it up, he was gentle but vague, said he didn't feel comfortable, that he just wasn't into group things. I told myself he was just an introvert, that maybe he just needed more time, but deep down I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. And I had no idea just how right and how horrifying that feeling would turn out to be. The distance between Adam and my friends started out subtle, but over time it became impossible to ignore. Every time I mentioned a group gathering or even casually brought up one of their names, his mood would shift. He'd go quiet, his body would tense, and sometimes he'd even change the subject altogether. I started noticing that even simple questions like "want to come with me to Maya's party?" would get met with a sigh or a hesitant shake of the head. At first, I chalked it up to social anxiety, or maybe just not vibing with their energy. But then it became every single time, no matter how small or informal the meetup, he'd always have a reason not to go. I began to get frustrated. It felt like he wasn't trying. These were the people I considered my chosen family, and I couldn't understand why he couldn't just suck it up and be around them for a couple of hours. I'd met his friends, made the effort even when I didn't feel like it. Why couldn't he do the same for me? I started pushing him gently at first, suggesting we just drop by for an hour, telling him it meant a lot to me. But the more I pushed, the more he seemed to retreat into himself. We had our first real fight about it after I came back from a girls' brunch. I had asked him to come along, but of course he declined. When I got home, I told him how weird it felt showing up alone again, and how my friends were starting to question if he even liked them. He didn't raise his voice or get defensive. Instead, he just stared at the floor and said, "You don't understand. I can't be around them." His tone was different this time. There was no annoyance or passive resistance. It sounded like fear. I was taken aback, confused. I asked him what that was supposed to mean, but he just shook his head and said he didn't want to talk about it. That moment left me feeling cold. I didn't know what he meant, but something in my gut told me this wasn't just about social awkwardness anymore. There was something he wasn't telling me, and I had no idea how much deeper this went. ChatGPT said, as the weeks went by, the tension between Adam and my friend group only got worse. I was stuck in the middle, constantly trying to balance two parts of my life that felt like they were pulling in opposite directions. My friends had started to notice his absence more openly. At first, it was harmless comments like, "Is Adam working again?" or "He really doesn't like us, does he?" But soon their tone shifted. They began making jokes that didn't sit right with me. One of them said, "Maybe he's allergic to estrogen," and the others laughed. Another time, someone joked, "He must be hiding a secret family. No one dodges girls' night this hard." They said it with smiles, but there was something sharp underneath. I laughed along because I didn't want to seem defensive, but deep down it stung. At home, things with Adam were growing distant. He wasn't the same warm, relaxed person I'd fallen in love with. He was anxious, distracted, and sometimes seemed on edge even when we were alone. I tried to talk to him about it again, but every time he'd shut down. "It's not you," he'd say. "I just have a lot on my mind." I started wondering if maybe I had done something wrong. Or maybe he was pulling away from me. The worst thoughts crept in. Maybe he was losing interest. Maybe he was hiding something. I didn't want to believe it, but the more I was left in the dark, the more I filled in the blanks with fear. Then came the night everything cracked open. I had gone out with my friends for drinks and left my phone in my purse for most of the evening. When I got home later than expected, Adam was already there, pacing the living room. His eyes were red, and he looked like he hadn't slept. I asked him what was wrong, and at first he didn't say anything. He just stood there, breathing heavily, like he was trying to hold something in. Then he finally said, "I can't do this anymore." I was stunned. I asked what he meant, and he looked me straight in the eye and said, "Your friends have been crossing lines with me since the beginning, and I need you to know what they've done." My heart sank. I couldn't breathe. I had no idea what was coming. Adam sat down on the edge of the couch, his hands trembling as he rubbed them over his face. I stood frozen, watching him unravel in front of me, completely unprepared for what he was about to say. His voice cracked as he began, and what came out didn't even feel real at first. He told me it started the very first night he met them, when I had stepped into the kitchen to grab drinks. One of my friends, someone I'd known for years, had leaned in too close, made a comment about how cute he was in a way that didn't feel like a joke. He brushed it off, tried to be polite, but it didn't stop there. He said every time we saw them, one or more of them would do something that crossed the line. Touching his arm unnecessarily, making inappropriate comments about his body when I wasn't around. One time, someone even grabbed his hand and jokingly said, "If she ever dumps you, you know where to find me." He looked ashamed, like just saying it out loud made him feel dirty. I felt my stomach twist into knots. I wanted to interrupt, to say no, they wouldn't, they couldn't, but the pain in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. Then he told me the worst part. That one night, at a party when I had gone outside to take a call, one of them had cornered him in the hallway and tried to kiss him. He pushed her away and left the party early, telling me he wasn't feeling well. He said he wanted to tell me then, but he didn't want to ruin my friendships or make me choose. He said, "I didn't think anyone would believe me, and I didn't want you to think I was trying to manipulate you." Hearing that broke something inside me. He had been carrying all of this alone, afraid that I'd take their side or worse, that I'd think he was lying. I sat there in silence, tears stinging my eyes, my mind spinning with images of the people I'd laughed with, cried with, trusted with everything. And now I had to face the fact that the people I thought I knew had done something unforgivable. ChatGPT said, "After I left that apartment, I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel with shaking hands, trying to process everything. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. I had just walked away from a group of women I had loved like sisters, women I trusted with my deepest secrets, who had seen me through heartbreaks, family issues, everything. And now all I could feel was disgust, not just at them, but at myself too. How had I let this go on for so long? How did I not see it? Or worse, how many times had I unknowingly defended them to Adam while they were hurting him behind my back? When I got home, Adam was sitting on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. He looked up when I came in, his expression cautious, guarded, like he wasn't sure what version of me would walk through that door. I sat down beside him and just said, "I believe you." That's when he broke. The tension in his body collapsed all at once, and he started crying. Not the quiet kind, but the kind that comes from months of holding something in too long. I held him, and for a long time neither of us said anything. There were no words left, just the weight of everything that had happened between us and around us. In the days that followed, I started to realize how deep the damage went. Adam had been questioning his own reality for months, wondering if what he experienced was serious enough to speak up about, unsure if anyone would take him seriously because he was a man. That part haunted me. I kept thinking about how many men go through similar things and stay silent because they're afraid no one will believe them. Or worse, they'll be laughed at. My so-called friends didn't stop. Some continued sending messages, trying to explain themselves or blame Adam for twisting things. Others turned completely cruel, calling him a liar, saying I was being manipulated. It was like watching a toxic mask being ripped off, revealing something much uglier underneath. I blocked every single one of them. There was no going back after this. They had shown me exactly who they were when it mattered most, and they had failed. Not just as friends, but as human beings. The truth was brutal, but at least now there were no more shadows. It's been a few months since everything fell apart, and while the dust has mostly settled, the emotional fallout still lingers. There are moments when I'll be doing something simple, folding laundry, scrolling through my phone, and suddenly a memory will hit me. A dinner party, a group selfie, a moment of laughter with girls I once thought would be in my wedding, and I'll feel this strange mix of grief and nausea. It's like mourning someone who's still alive, someone you can't look at the same way anymore. I didn't just lose friends. I lost a version of my past, of myself, that I thought was unshakable. Adam and I are still together, stronger now in some ways, but healing isn't a straight line. He still flinches when people make certain types of jokes, still gets anxious in unfamiliar social settings. He's been seeing a therapist, working through what happened, and I'm so proud of him for that. There's courage in survival, but there's also courage in admitting the damage. I'm trying to be patient, supportive, and most of all, present, because I know now what he endured in silence, and I'll never let that silence win again. I've learned things I wish I hadn't had to, like how harassment isn't limited to one gender, and how the world still struggles to take male victims seriously. I've seen how easy it is for people, especially people in tight social circles, to gaslight, to deflect, to protect each other instead of holding each other accountable. It's opened my eyes in a way that's been painful but necessary. I've started unlearning the quiet biases I didn't even know I held, and I've promised myself I'll never again brush off discomfort just because it comes from someone I trust. Sometimes I still get messages. Random check-ins from mutuals or the occasional fake. Friendly text from one of the girls acting like nothing ever happened. I don't respond. I don't owe them closure or space in my life. That chapter is closed. And while it hurts, I'm at peace with that. I chose truth over comfort. I chose Adam. I chose what was right even when it was messy and heartbreaking. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. Except maybe I'd have believed him sooner.